Welcome, everyone, to the CWNE 500 live stream event. We are here to celebrate many years of developing individuals' professional skills in Wi-Fi technologies, and now in recent years in wireless IoT technologies as well. And I have a lot of people behind me, well, not literally, but virtually, that are going to be joining us as well as we talk about CWNP and CWNE and all the people that have been involved in it over the years and where we've come from and where we're going, and a lot of fun. We've got people with us from Canada, from the United States, from London, and other parts of the world as well. And many of you joining to watch the live stream. I wish we could bring everybody into the actual video, but please jump in the chat. Let everybody know you're here. Have your conversations on the side as well on the YouTube live stream. And with that said, I'm going to get started because we have a lot of people to talk to today about a lot of really important things. But before we bring anybody into the stream to talk about CWNP and the CWNE program and what it's meant to different people over the years and what has changed in technology, I want to bring up the person who this is really all about. That would be CWNE 500. And so I'm going to bring in Mark with me right now. Mark, welcome to the live stream.
Thank you. I feel kind of crazy. You guys all know each other really well, and I'm kind of the new guy on the pole here, but excited to be here.
Yes, and you happen to be that person who got number 500, and so we made you get into the spotlight, whether you like it or not.
I know, right? It's fun.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And real quick, tell us where you're from, what got you started in Wi-Fi, and so forth for maybe 60 to 90 seconds or so.
Okay. I live here in Utah, about an hour from Keith and Ferney. I've been doing enterprise Wi-Fi since about 2007, 2008, but really kind of got into it back about nine years ago. I've taken a ton of stuff from Keith over the years, just lots of little trainings. Actually took a training. You came on site for our organization once, Tom, and gave a training back like 7 years ago or something. And so kind of just got me started, and then had opportunities to take the CWNA courses a couple times. And that kind of just gave me the kick I needed. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then this past fall, I was like, I'm just doing it. And so I went through and burned through all the rest of them this last fall. So.
Excellent. Now that's interesting. So forgive me, but I'm in my, I'll say early 50s. And so I've forgotten a lot. 7 years ago or so, I went into the company. What company was that? Do you remember?
Northeast or Utah Education Network.
Oh, yes, I remember that. That was working with Robert Bartz, actually,
Yep.
if I remember right. And so it looks like Robert, who we've brought on screen now, may have been involved in that beginning journey, whether you realized it or not. Because
I did not know that.
Yeah, I was actually working with Robert. So that was like was that a CWTS or something like that?
So it was kind of a modified version of it. Yeah, it was like a 2-day event, and so you kind of just modified it. It wasn't a full class, but you came on site and taught us, and so it was pretty cool.
So Robert, did you know that CWNE 500 kind of started his journey because of you?
I do not remember that. I guess I'm as old than you, Tom. So
yes, a lot older than me. We'll bring Robert back on a little bit later on. I just thought that was interesting. I did not know that. I learned it live right here that it all started back there at that Utah Education Network event that we did. So that's really exciting to just kind of see how all this stuff flows around. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Robert. And thank you to Mark. We'll bring Mark back on and Robert a little bit later on. But we also need to have a conversation with someone who's on with us who is going to have to run away pretty soon. But we wanted to give him the opportunity to talk to us about kind of his area of specialty and focus. He's and not just related to Wi-Fi, but in security in general. He's been involved in some different committees with standards organizations for security related technologies and things like that. And it's kind of a passion of his. And so I thought, being that he's a CWNE, being that he's been on the board and so forth, that we would bring him in and have a conversation about how security has changed over the years since the CWNP program has exists. So everyone can welcome Phil Morgan, who's waiting in an airport for his plane to board.
Hi.
Head home from Cisco Live. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, all. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Excellent. Glad to have you. So I thought we'd just take a couple of minutes to talk about, just this morning I was talking to someone and I said, probably one of the most important moments in the history of Wi-Fi was the ratification of 802.11i in 2004, which allowed organizations to feel more comfortable that Wi-Fi could be implemented in a secure manner. And it was a big, big thing. So security has always been important for Wi-Fi. What are your thoughts on what's going on in the security world right now related to Wi-Fi and where you think we're headed and WPA3 adoption and all that fun stuff that's going on right now?
Oh, it's easy. WPA3 will save us. The end. I'm at a conference in Cisco, and there's about 500 people in the room, and the presenter says, "How many people have converted over to WPA3?" And loads of hands go up. How many people have converted over to WPA3 only? And I put my hand up, and I look, and I'm like, "Oh, there were 2 of us out of 500. Everybody else is doing some kind of transition or waiting to see what happens." And that, I think, is the scary thing. I personally believe we should go to WPA3, skip transition, create 2 SSIDs, and there's already 50 people messaging now as I speak. The problem is backwards compatibility, Tom. It's easy for me to say, let's go to WPA3, but if you have hundreds and hundreds of barcode scanners in your warehouse, you just can't immediately turn a switch on to go to WPA3. So WPA3 is the future without a doubt. OWE gives us encryption on our open networks. The future is clear, but when we get there and how soon clients will start supporting totally, there's loads of people who are talking about doing testing and finding that if you put WPA3 mode on with WPA2 transition mode, some clients are like, nope, I'm not connecting. There shouldn't be 2 options. It's back to the old 802.11r thing that we had back in the days. So it's that's, I think, is going to be the big holdup. We're going to get there, but when is the question?
Yeah, it will take a while. Well, the good news is that at least WEP is considered obsolete in the standard now instead of just deprecated. So that's a positive.
At last. Yeah.
All right. Well, Phil, I really appreciate you being here. And just so everybody knows as well, you're not only CWNE, you're also what?
I'm a member of the Boy Scouts. Is that where we go with this?
I do believe you also hold another certification, right, with us?
I'm oh, you're talking about CWISE?
Yes.
So I didn't know you're going.
Yeah. One of the few dual experts in the world. And we have a few of them on with us today, actually. And so absolutely, congratulations on that. For those of you who don't know, he is one of our board members for CWISE. And we also have another on with us today. We'll talk to a little bit later on. So Phil, thanks for being here.
Applications in. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care and have a safe flight home.
Thanks, man.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go back to the beginning. We're going to go back to where it all started. And this was in the year of 1827, when a little boy named Devin felt like that we should be able to have 2 devices talk to each other wirelessly, if only people believed in a standard methodology. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Did I say 1820s? It wasn't the 1820s. It was actually the 1990s, but it seems like that long ago when you talk to anybody who's under the age of 25 today, because they think if you were alive before 2000, then you were really old. Well, Devin, that means that you and I are apparently really old. So welcome. Devin was here in the beginning, and that beginning was not when the certification became available. You and I have had some conversations about this over the years, but the beginning actually goes back to the 90s. And when it was a baby that needed to be born, and sadly the gestation period was much longer than 9 months to get to the point of launch. I thought something that would be really interesting for people to hear a little bit about is the motivation that you guys had when you originally started CWNP. And then also tell us the story about your original big expenditure for a launch at a conference and what day that happened to be and what it coincided with, because people don't know the link of history with CWNP, I think, a lot. So tell us what motivated you and how did your original launch day go?
Yeah. So what was the motivation? To get rich, of course. No, I'm just kidding, sort of. All the founding members of CWP were entrepreneur types. So there was an excitement over new stuff, right? This is a new hole in the market. Maybe we could, do something cool. Little did we know that nobody's ever made any money from fledgling niche field education companies, right? This is just not how you make money. But we were already selling Wi-Fi equipment online. There was a company called wirelesscentral.net that we built. And because I spent most of my time doing support, that is answering buyers' questions, we realized that nobody seemed to know anything about wireless LAN technology. They wanted to buy it, they just didn't know how to use it. So that's when the idea of moving from selling the equipment, which was a 1% at best, 1% profit margin, into the education and certification aspect of it. I had already had a lot of certifications from various vendors, Microsoft, Novell, Cisco, and so on. And so we decided, hey, let's get into the education certification aspect of wireless LANs while it's not even a thing yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had gotten a lot of certs, and I'd worked with competition and writing questions, things like this. And I'd written some technology books on routing, switching, and security with Cybex. So I already had that kind of a background. So when Kevin Sandlin and I kind of got together over this, he made a comment that I will never forget. He said, "I'm going to sell what's in your brain. Your job is to make sure that what's in your brain is worth selling." And so the team, the original team, was Kevin and me, and then Scott Turner and Scott Williams. So it was just the four of us for a good long time. And I'll be honest, our greatest joy outside of our pathetic and inadequate paychecks each month was getting to see people's lives transformed as they found jobs, doing something they love, they found interesting in a new field, and usually making more money than they ever had to feed their families. Certainly more than we made educating them.
Yeah.
To answer your second question about that fateful day, 9/11/2001, that was our coming out party. That was our launch date, and we were in Atlanta at a big trade show that was held there for many years, and we had a booth, and we had a big news event, if you can call it that. There were supposed to be like 50 different news outlets, technology news outlets, that were covering this launch because it was wireless LANs and it was a new thing and all of this. And Kevin and I were standing there waiting to start. And only, I would say, half an hour or less from our presentation, nobody showed up. And we're like, where is everybody? Shouldn't they be trickling in? And then somebody said, hey, you guys, this launch is canceled. And we're like, what do you mean? We didn't cancel it. They said, yeah, so somebody else canceled it. It's the towers. I'm like, what towers? And we ran to big TVs and started watching this. And we were right next to CNN Center. So we went over there and watched this as well. So our launch party was canceled by 9/11/2001. Literally, we were 30 minutes from launching, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a piece of history. A lot of people don't realize that association is there. You first told me about it several years ago when I was preparing a presentation for one of our conferences, and I was digging into your mind about some of the history of the program. And that was the first time I'd actually heard that story. I personally became familiar with the program around the 2004 timeframe. I think it was somewhere around there. And, a little funny thing too, that's interesting, how all the networks and all the relationships and so forth come together. I met you because I was creating some e-learning for CWNA for a company, and they wanted to send me to your class. And I came to the CWSP beta class that you were teaching. And then maybe months or a year later, I was in Atlanta teaching something else. And I called you and said, hey, what are you doing? I'll come out and meet you. It was around Katrina timeframe because you were hauling a bunch of stuff over to donate for Katrina. And I asked if you had time for me to come out, and he said, well, I got to go do this. If you want to help me with this errand, you can come out and help me. And we can hang out for a while. And throughout the whole night, we went and ate something together. We went back to your place and different things. And you kept bringing up this thing called Wireless Sharp and how that it was a new cert. You kept saying, but we're going to need someone to write the book for it. And I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 times you said, we're going to need someone to write the book for it. And then I'm literally walking out the door of your house and I'm leaving. And you said, Tom, are you going to write this book or not? And that was the first time I wrote a book on any of the CWNP certifications. So it was kind of that interesting starting point, and wrote quite a bit more about wireless after that too, needless to say. So it was a fun start. Well, I want to point out one thing real quick before I let you go, Devin. And that is that whether you realize it or not, we brought Mark back in here, who's CWNE number 500. And this should do 2 things for you. One, it should make you feel old, but second, it should make you feel very proud, because here's the way I'm going to phrase this. Every single CWNE can divide their number by the number, and it takes them back to Devin. And that's reality.
That's very weird.
Because when you divide 500 by 500, it gives you number 1. And so the reality is that he launched the program, and Kevin as well, and many other people helped in the beginning. And the end result is an awful lot of people being able to accomplish a lot of things. And I just noticed in the chat that someone asked, who's the first CWNE, Tom? Well, you're watching us live, so you see him right there in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, CWNE number 1. And we also, by the way, have CWISE number 1 on with us today, and we'll be talking about him and with him a little bit later on as well. So, Mark, meet the founder if you've never met Devin before.
I met him at CW or Land Pros back in Phoenix.
Yeah, I think just about everybody meets everybody.
Once at that, but.
All right. Excellent. Well, hey, Devin, thanks a lot for being with us and sharing some of that history. I really do appreciate it, and we wish you well.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. So what we're going to do right now is we've got something really exciting, because I've been bringing some individuals on. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on a whole group of people, and they're going to make some of you feel a little bit left out. Because unlike the rest of us who are being good in the middle of the business day, their business day is over. And so they're having a little bit of fun. But we're going to bring them in because we have a group of people from London who have gathered together. We have the London crowd. Hello, everyone.
Good morning. So, evening. We want to start by congratulating Mark, CWNE number 500. So, we've got some champagne here.
All right. Awesome. Cheers, Mark. Hey, Mark, they popped the top for you.
Popping champagne for me, man.
Yeah.
Cheers, Mark.
Cheers. Cheers.
Absolutely. Already. Great. Congratulations again, Mark. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to let everybody there introduce themselves, because that'll make it a little bit easier. So we'll just go down the line and let you tell us who you are, your CWNE number.
Can we start with the AV guy? Start with the AV guy. I'm just the AV guy.
The most important one in the room right now.
That's it. Start from this end. Nigel Bone, CWNE number 135.
Alan Blake, 129. Robert Boardman, 300.
Ian Till, 347. Go, Martin. Martin, 148. I'm Peter, number 33.
Peter Rickson, 472. Steve Bell, 492.
All right. Very good. So
very interesting seeing here. There are a bunch of 4 musketeers here who spent the night in Utrecht, who came up with some stupid idea.
This is our fault, to be honest.
Yeah. We shouldn't have.
Gin and tonic is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, we came up in a bar with an idea of having a party, and now look what's happening.
who traveled the farthest to be there for the gathering?
Probably Robert.
Robert?
He's come from America.
Oh, come on.
Because he's American. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I had the longest. Martin might actually have the longest flight. You're farther east than me now, aren't you? In Sweden?
Yeah, but I have to change plane in Copenhagen, so it took me 4 hours to get there.
Oh, I had a direct 2-hour flight. I'm good. So yeah, Martin wins.
I had a 20-minute train.
How long was your train ride, Peter?
About 2.5 hours.
Same as my flight.
All right. Excellent. So we got a lot of CWNEs in the room, ranging from very low numbers to much higher numbers, which means that, you know, some of you got your CWNE when some certifications didn't even exist, right? So, for example, a CWDP didn't even exist back when number 33 would have been issued, right?
No, and in fact, I remember, and I think it's worth saying, that the CWNE exam, like I got my certification before it, but then I remember helping Devon produce a CWNE exam. I wonder how many people actually took that exam. Not many, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think there were probably too many. Devon, I'm going to bring you back in here. So you remember the days of the CWNE exam and how many people actually did that?
The actual exam, I'm going to say it was under 100. I think it was in the 70s, 78 to 80-ish, I think is right. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's right. It was less.
It was definitely under 100, because when I joined, it was like number 97 or 98. And the people were being approved through an evaluation process then, and not an exam.
Everyone who took the exam passed it, did they? It was a hard exam.
It was a very hard exam. Thanks to the CWNE roundtables, I think if I were to describe we had 3 roundtables. We had number 1, number 2A, and 2B. And if I were to describe them, other than saying that they were brilliant engineers, I would say that they were probably sadists, because they helped me create the most difficult exam that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I just remember at one point you sending me questions and me writing the instructions for them. And I remember some of the questions, I was like, that is a hard question. And then I just made it harder by coming up with plausible ones.
Well, there was almost a dozen people. I think it was, between 10 and 12 people per roundtable. And so we had about 30 some odd people that were putting their eyes on this, and they had a varying experience, worked for various vendors and consultants, independent consultants, and they just created a very accurate, very well written, amazing exam that almost nobody took. And anybody who did take it, complained about it. It was like, this is too hard. I have to admit, I did have an agenda about that exam that I probably never told anybody. And that is, I failed the CCIE. I passed the written on the second try, but I went to the lab and I got spanked like most people did. I didn't get past the first day of CCIE routing switching lab, and it really got under my skin. And so that was in, I think it was 2000, either 2000 or 99. I think it was 99. And we started the CWP program a little bit later. So a little bit of making this exam so hard, since this was our pinnacle exam and the CCIE was the pinnacle exam for Cisco, was to get a little bit of payback because, people were whining. I'm like, you're a CCIE, you're not allowed to whine. You know what tough means. And so focusing on Joel Barrett, poor guy. Yep. So this was the original roundtable, number 1. So Chris Hyde and Joel Barrett and Rick Murphy, David Coleman, Casey Collins, Keith Parsons, who's here, Troy McMillan, Rick Drager, David Westcott, who's here, and Kimberly Graves. This was quite the group, and that went on to do amazing things in this industry.
Joe, one thing that always remember about Chris Hyde was how he carried a ring binder around with him with the entire printed 802.11 standard in it with post-it notes, so that you any question came up, you went straight to the point in the standard and proved why you were wrong from the standard. That was my memory of him. Brilliant guy.
Yeah. So
let me tell you my experience with Chris. He was my technical editor for the CWNA book when I wrote the 4th edition of that for McGraw-Hill. And Yes, he's very picky about technical accuracy, but it brought so much value, and I'm sure it did in this round table and so forth as well. I would have loved to have been there to watch it.
I would say more than that, Tom. Chris would call me up at 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning because I don't think he had a job, but I don't know if he did anything at his job. And so he would call me up and he would make comments like, I think you're wrong about 9.6.3 section A, where the word shall is used, and that points over to section 11.4, and you're like, what? And he goes, I think you're wrong, and you need to look this up. And I'll get back with you this afternoon to make sure that you've looked this up and found the right answer. Of course, that I already know, but I'm not going to tell you because you wouldn't learn anything this way. And so he tortured me for multiple years by just calling me up and telling me I was wrong, which drives me crazy. And so then I would spend hours hunting down what he was talking about, and he was right 90% of the time. And so he made the CWP program much, much better, but he made me way better at it because he would look at things at a level that I just wasn't used to doing. And it made me dig and become a better engineer.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? Devin, can you hear me? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So what was the 10% you got right?
I couldn't tell you. It would have been the easy part. Anything that you would go, oh yeah, sure, of course, that's probably the part I got right. And he also told us that 5 gig was the future, and we laughed. And he also said that Macs were the future, and we laughed. Some people just have a bit of foresight, and he was one of them. But he made me crazy because he forced me to dig hard all the time, and he did it in a way that I had to go do it. He would say, "You're wrong about this, and you're misleading everybody." And I'm like, what? And so he didn't just say, "Hey, you should look into this." I wouldn't have. And so he was good for the program and good for me, but very difficult. If you're just going to hang out with him all day, that might have been difficult for me.
Excellent. Well, hey, while we still have Devin on the screen here, just for the whole world to see the evidence, right here we have the CWNA study guide published by McGraw-Hill in 2003. That's 20 years ago today that book was published. Well, not necessarily today, but this year. And so quite a historical landmark. And I tell you, I don't know how many books have been published since then. I know there were several versions of McGraw-Hill. There have been several versions of Cybex. A guy named Mark Ciampi, a professor, has written books on CWNA and CWNP materials over the years as well. And then the Certitrek publishing books. And so there have been certainly well over 60 total books written on wireless that have come out of the CWNP program over the years. And we've had authors, including people like Mr. McKinsey in the room here today. And many that are on here have helped write with Certitrek, but as far as Cybex and McGraw-Hill, there have been different authors that have written for them too. Peter wrote, I believe, didn't you, Peter, for Cybex, maybe some CWAP stuff?
Yeah, the AP, so the guy for Cybex. That's correct.
Exactly. And so just a lot of effort over the years. It has been really, for many people have benefited from the program, but the program has benefited from many people. And there's been a lot of giving that has helped. And so, one great thing about joining the CWNE community is you're joining a community of people that a very large percent of them are givers. They're people who want to help other engineers, other technicians, and they've given a lot. When I look around at the people that are with us today, I see Martin over there in London. You would not believe the hours he has spent reviewing materials and sending me feedback and letting me know about mistakes. And sometimes, sadly, he's had to let me know about mistakes for 3 versions before we finally get it fixed. But he's always given that time and taken that time. And he's just one example. And I apologize if I'm not calling out someone else who is with us today that has done similar things. But the point is that it illustrates the community, and that community is built in such a way. I said at a conference several years ago that the thing that motivates our community is love. There's a genuine love for each other. There's a genuine love for the technology. There's a genuine love for the industry, and all of that comes together to give us the results that we've seen over the years. So it's really, really exciting. And of course, now that everybody knows, since I pointed it out, every CWNE can divide by Devon.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Should have been for that for a long time.
We'll, that, by the way, that's called Devon math instead of RF math. So instead of the rules of 10s and 3s, it's the rule of 1. All right, we're
Is
going
that going to be in the next? Is that going to be in the next book?
No, I don't think so.
That's a question on the CWNA exam.
There you go.
The only person upset with that is going to be Kimberly. Oh.
All right, London, we will come back to you a little bit later, but we need to move on to some other folks now. So thanks, guys. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, what I want to do right now is bring on who I call the oldest trainer in the business. Now, this individual, I don't call him the oldest trainer in the business just because he's old, but also because he has been one of the longest running learning partners with CWNP. He was involved in the very first beta classes and even taken to his neighborhood to make it happen. And so he's been around for a long time, and many, many people, in fact, I doubt that anyone has trained more people along the journey to become a CWNP, specifically in official classes, than the one that we're going to bring in here. And that is Mr. Robert Bartz. So Robert, glad to have you. A few years ago, when we did our virtual conference, you showed the reality of your history, that you actually were a previous member of a big rock band. But today you're clean shaven and things have changed. I guess with COVID moving behind us, the razor started working again. Welcome.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction, Tom. I really appreciate it. And you're right. I am old, an old trainer. But that's why, it's funny. I dug up my old Novell Netwear CNE badge from over 30 years ago. So started working in aerospace and left there to become a network engineer for Novell Netwear, and did technical training from Novell Netwear from the early 1990s. And then sat that first CWNA class from Mr. Devin Aiken, CV number 1, as you all know, back in November of 2001. So that was almost 22 years ago. Sat that first class. And I'll tell you, it was a life changer. It really was, because I had been working in aerospace engineering, prior to becoming and part of networking, computer networking. And to sit that class, to see the combination of different technologies, computer networking with radio frequency, it was just phenomenal. And it was like, man, there was so much great stuff in this technology. And Devin did such a great job on teaching that class, and it really got me motivated to continue to work with the technology. So again, for over 20 years now, been teaching and working with the technology. And I wish I had the actual numbers of students. You had mentioned about teaching consistently for the past 22 years. I don't have the actual numbers, but I know it's a heck of a lot of people that I've taught through these classes. But I will say it was just a great experience to sit that first class and to see that, and to be part of the evolution of the technology. I mean, when we first started working with this stuff, and the CBP program became first available, we had 2.4 gig, 5 gig, which nobody was using, and WEP, and that was it. And I mean, it was slow and it wasn't secure, and to see the evolution of the technology and be part of that evolution has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just discovering today. I mean, until that moment, I had no idea. You didn't know that Mart really began the journey because of your training company.
One of the classes,
because what happened back then, I remember that, it's like, isn't it funny? It's like everything pre-COVID is like almost forgotten now to us, but it's like, I do remember it once he brought it up that you had contacted me, you were unable to do it. You wanted to know if I could go out and do it for you. And I went out and spoke at that event. And I remember we did like a little custom type course for them. And that's awesome. That's exciting to see the people's lives that get impacted and changed. You know, I know people that started out very young on the journey to become a CWNE. And I'm sure you've had many of those in your classes, you know, early 20s, some even in late teens. And then they acquire their CWNE and they're able to go into the career and really establish great things. And many have gone on to write books within the technology sector. They've gone on to take very high level positions in vendors and other companies. And a lot of exciting things that happen. And a lot of that comes back to the program and then the people that were helping people get the education over the years, like yourself. And in addition to working as a trainer, you've also written a lot of books over the years to help people. So you've written books for Cybex, right?
Yes.
On wireless, not just for wireless CWNP certifications, but also I think you even covered I think it's defunct now, but a CompTIA wireless.
CompTIA. Yep.
Yeah. Didn't they do like Mobility Plus or something like that?
Yeah, Mobility Plus. I think that certification retired.
Yeah.
Along with CWTS. So that's kind of telling me something, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, Robert's been around a long time with us, almost since the beginning. I mean, technically since a product has been available, he's been available. He just wasn't necessarily there in the late 1990s when Devin and Kevin were first trying to figure out where to go with this. And then I kind of alluded to it, but I do believe the first class kind of happened in your back door, kind of, right? And you're on
up in Denver, Colorado.
Yep.
Yeah. It was about, I think it was about 8 of us. I can't remember exactly. I'd have to look back at my notes, but probably about 8 of us were in that class. And like I said, it was a game changer. I mean, it really taken just the joy of seeing these different technologies be married together, you know, and who would have imagined back then that, you know, it would be where we're at today with this technology. You know, I used to say wireless is an extension to the network. I like to say now wireless is the network. I mean, that's just the way it goes. It's just amazing. And to see, like you even mentioned, to see the people's lives that have changed, to be a part of that, and to see how many people. I mean, I've had people that were so, you know, back in the early days and even more recently, even that are so good at networking, but maybe are new to wireless, and they just get blown away with the technology. So it's been so great to see the evolution, be part of the evolution, and to see how it did change, and it does change people's lives. You know, you had mentioned about some of the younger people. Geez, I have students now that are younger than my kids, and if I had grandkids, would probably be younger than my grandkids. But anyways, it's been a great ride. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing for everybody to know, we have several learning partners, and Robert is still one of them today. And so, you know, if you know somebody that needs training, he's one of them that you can recommend people to go to. Phil was on here earlier. They do training with us as well. So there are a lot of official learning partners. Best place to go in order to get your CWNP training when you want to go to that live training class. Robert, thanks a lot, sir. Appreciate you coming in with us today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Okay. And we have a few more people that we're going to be bringing in here as well to talk about different angles and different sides of the industry and what things have, what's been going on over the years. And one of them that's really important is something that began to be discussed a lot within our community pretty heavily around 9-10 years ago or so. And then someone who, one of the younger folks with us today, but we'll call him middle-aged. He has been very focused on this a lot. He's out of his own pocket at times, and at times others have provided him with resources, but he has provided financial assistance, time assistance, and so forth, mentoring different people. And so I want to bring on Landon Foster to talk a little bit about mentoring within the industry and, you know, the importance of that. And at the same time, I want to point out another one of our dual experts. We have just a few dual experts in the world right now, 8 to be exact. And Landon is actually, he's basically Devin's counterpart on the CWNE side. So, Devin, if you didn't know, meet CWISE number one. CWISE number one, meet CWNE number one.
Oh, I'm very familiar with Devin.
Yeah,
But
we
I
worked
didn't
together
know if
sometimes.
you had informed him of your achievement.
Yeah, he had. Congratulations.
All right, great. Thanks, Devin. So Landon is also on the board for CWISE as well. And we just had the opportunity of approving a CWISE recently. He's with us, and he will be coming on to chat a little bit later on also. But what I want to do right now is talk about mentoring. Why do you feel that mentoring is an important thing within the community, Landon?
Well, I think it all started, I guess, sort of when I got my start. Something that was essential for me was not feeling pushback, but neutrality is almost worse, right? I didn't get pushback coming in the community. I had so many people, Keith, Sam Clements, Devin, you, everyone just willing to help out. And, from a young man who's making pretty much minimum wage at the time, having people I know who were, let's say their time is considerably valuable, willing to dedicate that to me, it was a huge game changer for me. And I wanted to kind of smooth over that path for some of the people coming behind me. One thing I noticed, particularly with my generation, and by the way, first time been called middle-aged, thanks for that, Tom, is sort of being welcomed into their next phase of life. My generation seems to be a little directionless at times. We don't really fit, Gen X or, what we call boomers. And Gen Z is still too young, so finding our place is hard. A lot of hard times economically too. So just a little hand up means the world.
Yeah.
And those people are going to remember that. That's one of the reasons why I'm so interested. It's exponential growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And, one of the things too is that we do value community. CWNP values community, but I want to take that further and say the community values community.
Absolutely.
So there was a community before conferences became common in Wi-Fi, right? And it was a tight-knit community, but there was a community that was there as much as they could exist without a conference dedicated for them. And then eventually Keith Parsons created a conference, and I want to say it was Texas the first time they met, but Keith is on the chat with us, so he can correct me if I'm wrong about that. But that gave an opportunity for a place for people to meet, a place for people to come together. CWNP also ran their conference for several years until COVID came along and set that aside. But the point is that we found these ways to connect. But the big thing that's interesting is in all the research literature on the concept of communities of knowledge and communities of learning is that mentoring is a fundamental key component to their success. And we've seen it over the years. I mean, I'm a little older than you, so I kind of go back to the Commodore 64 community, right? That's the community I was part of. We didn't have Wi-Fi or any kind of wireless chips in our Commodore 64s, but we had community. And when we got together, we taught each other what we learned since we'd been apart. And it was how we developed a lot of our knowledge, and it's how we grew. And I'm very happy to say that the Wi-Fi world has that kind of community. And it's really, really exciting. And Landon has done a big part to help people out in mentoring over the years. And I personally have greatly appreciated it. And also greatly appreciate the value he has brought with the board memberships and helping out in those spaces too. Just always willing to give back. And the funny thing is, I've literally never reached out to him and asked him if he was interested in doing something or helping with something, and he has said no. And at times I'm literally asking within a 24-hour window, and he's still saying yes.
You would never.
Yeah. So all I can say to that is Landon, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And thanks for jumping in to chat with us a bit today.
So it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you, Tom.
All right, excellent. All right, so the next thing we want to do is I want to talk to someone who I know she's listening. She's waiting in the wings, and she has been a massive part of CWNP over the last 5 or 6 years. And not everybody knows it because not everybody reads the names in documents and not everybody pays attention. She's been a massive part of WLPC over the last few years, and not everybody notices because not everybody pays attention. But in all aspects of the community, from associations, conferences, to the development of our certifications, this woman has put in hours and hours of blood, sweat, and tears to make the community possible for all of us. And so I would like to welcome Manola Saw. Welcome to the live stream. Hey, so glad to have you with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Very good. Very good. So that person I just described, that's right. If you didn't know she did all that, she does all that. And she has been so very helpful over the years. And not only, here's the thing, May, that most people don't know about you. They don't know that you basically run our JTAs. For the most part, that's the simplest way to describe it. I get on, I start it, I say, here's what you are here to do. But then because of the structure of our JTAs, they're basically structured in such a way that I am prevented from giving any input to what ends up becoming the job task description that they create in that environment. And so I can ask them questions, but I can't tell them what to cover. And that's just the process. So therefore I hand it over to her, and then she has to deal with egos. She has to deal with humor. She has to deal with side conversations and try to get people back on track. And yet she still looks young. So May, you've done something great in order to overcome all of the health hazards of dealing with IT geeks as the cat herder, but somehow you've managed to do it. And I just want to say from my heart to yours, thank you for all that you've given over the years.
Thank
But
you.
what people don't know is when it's all over, she's like, Tom, you done this yet? Tom, you done that? She is still working behind the scenes in order to try to make sure things keep moving along, and always asking, what can I do to help? Do you need me to do anything? She is that invested in and cares that much about the certifications. And I'm going to ask May, where do you think that comes from? What gives you such an interest and passion in the CWNP certifications?
Well, I guess like a lot of my compatriots or vis-a-vis, I got really annoyed because I was trying to figure out how this wireless thing was working, and I discovered the program, and finally, I mean, I was not the only person, trying to figure it out and trying to make sense of it all. And I actually, when you came out with that Planet 3 wireless book, I went to get mine. I still have mine. So CWNP for me was in the books for a long time. And yeah, I mean, once you start to understand, you realize that it's only the beginning, and you're always learning from everybody around the table. So that's what makes the JTA experience fantastic. And we have so many contributors from all walks, well, not all walks of life, but all types of industries, from different backgrounds that are using the technology in different ways. So I mean, it's incredible because you learn so much every single time, whether it's a conference or a webinar or an association, or just to get together with a bunch of wireless geeks. You learn so much that how can you not love that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I really like to pull your legs, so that's another thing too.
Well, that's a good thing. And that's the other thing on a personal note. One of the things that I've noticed about this community, and I'm sure that you've experienced it as well.
Mm-hmm.
When we individuals face things, just personal things, right? I'm not talking about technical issues, personal things in our lives. People are pinging, checking in. How you doing? How you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while. What's up with you? And things like that. And we've all gone through things. I've gone through my things. Different people have gone through things. And the people that reach out and check on you just because they think, I haven't heard from him in a while, I want to make sure that he's okay. And they're not doing it because there's any possibility of profitability for them or money
There's
for
there's
them.
there's
Or
n- no
it's
there's no gain
genuine
aside
care.
from genuine care. That's
Yeah,
always, it's a warm fuzzy
absolutely.
feeling. And
Yeah.
whenever November comes around and the WLPC registrations open, and when the CWNP conference, when there are some open, there's always this big boost of energy and chatter on Twitter and in Slack and all over the place of, are you coming? Can you get, can I help with anything? Can I do this or that? And I want to contribute, and it's what makes it fun and
Absolutely.
incredible to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's awesome, May. Thank you for jumping in. I've got some more people to chat with, so I'm going to let you go, but I really do appreciate you being here and for everything you do for the community.
Pleasure. I'm still waiting for your objectives, though.
I'll see you later. Bye. and with that, we're going to move on to talk about a new direction, right? And by a new direction, I don't mean that anything changes on the importance or focus of the what we now call the Wi-Fi track, which is CWNA through CWNE with a little bit of CWS and CWT under the hood if people do decide to start at that point. But there's another track as well, and that is the wireless IoT track. And so I'm going to talk about that from two perspectives. First of all, I'm going to bring in one of my favorite people in the world. He is a very nice guy. There are two guys that I would say this about. I used to say there was a nicest guy in Wi-Fi, and that was Brian Harkins. But then I got to know Troy Martin, and I realized there's actually two nicest guys in Wi-Fi. They're both very kind and friendly, and you just don't feel any judgment coming out of them on you. They're just some of the most kind and accepting people I've ever met. But they're also super technical and absolutely amazing. And Troy is going to come on now, and he's going to talk to us a bit. But before we talk about new uses of wireless, or maybe different than what some people in the Wi-Fi track are aware of, pointing out we have another dual expert with us in Troy here. So he's also a board member and assists us in evaluating CWISEs. And so we're glad to have Troy with us. But Troy, what I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is, what are you seeing in industrial spaces and things like that? What kind of devices, because when we think about Wi-Fi, we tend to think of laptops, desktops. Maybe we'll think of a camera or something of that sort. What are you seeing out there in different environments, the different kinds of devices, either Wi-Fi or other wireless, that you're starting to see more and more in various spaces?
Well, first off, thank you for that warm and kind introduction, Tom.
See,
some of the things that
this guy in Wi-Fi, he comes right back and says, I'm the kind one.
One of the exciting things that I'm seeing in the enterprise space, just regular carpeted office, is the ability to deploy temperature sensors, humidity, and occupancy sensors, right? And this allows organizations to track which meeting rooms are being utilized, and more importantly, which ones aren't being utilized, right? So if there's rooms that are too big or too small, it gives the enterprise an opportunity to reconfigure their environment so they can optimize their workspace. They can also track temperature data, and so they can go back to their landlords, and engage them and say, hey, you need to reconfigure your HVAC systems. This area of the building is way too hot, way too cold. And it's, keeping our employees from being most efficient because they don't want to go to that area. And here's the data behind that. So now we have the data to back up those justifications for changes. In the industrial space, we're also seeing autonomous haulage vehicles driving around massive mine sites. that are self-aware, making their own decisions over the wireless networks. They're being sent command and control information, so they know where to go pick up material, where to dump that material. But even on the trucks themselves, they also have their own kind of personal truck area networks where they're monitoring things like tire pressure, gas consumption, haulage weight, how much materials dropped off driving from point A to point B. We also have robots in warehouses, right? Large shipping companies are filling their warehouses with robots driving around that are much more efficient, picking up inventory, moving that around. And we have to be aware of latency in the communication that we're sending to them. I'm sure everyone on the call is very much aware of the announcement that just came out recently from Apple with their AR goggles, right? So we're seeing headsets that require massive amounts of bandwidth because a lot of the graphics processing is happening in the cloud. In order to reduce the weight of the headsets and to minimize the battery and CPU requirements within the goggles themselves, they're offloading that graphic processing to the cloud, right? But in order to do that, we need really tight, low latency delivery of that of the video feed to the goggles, so that people don't get sick while they're actually experiencing the goggles themselves. So there's tons of new and exciting devices that are coming out to the industrial spaces, and it's all these business cases that I think are really going to pull in the excitement to implement and deliver IoT technologies. And then we'll have to, as wireless practitioners, make sure that we're implementing these protocols following best design practices.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, so are the goggles popular yet? No, but it's given us a prediction of where things are going, because that's not the only small form factor device that's going to need processing power, and it's going to rely on wireless links in order for that power to happen. Autonomous automobiles are different because, right, they've got motors and batteries, and they can power local processors that are more powerful, and they can do a lot more local processing. But when you get these small biomedical devices and healthcare IoT devices, things like that, it's a different ballgame, and it's going to drive an awful lot of data transfer. And Wi-Fi is really good for those kinds of devices that need a lot of data, whereas some of the other wireless IoT protocols are better for those things that send smaller amounts of data instead of the large amounts. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And I always say 6 gigahertz for the win when it comes to the future of Wi-Fi and IoT. Now, what we're going to do right now, Troy, I'm going to keep you right here, because we're going to bring in at the same time as well, if he's still with us. Yes, here he is, Landon. I'm going to give you a warning, Landon, before I bring you in, but here comes Landon. And so Landon is now in with us, and it looks like they're getting really, really drunk now in London. So I'm going to bring them back in with us. And so we got Peter there texting on his phone.
Sorry, I was ordering pizza.
Ordering pizza. Oh, don't let me stop you. But there's a very important thing. Not a lot of people get the opportunity to meet their evaluators, right? But we've lost Phil. Phil is also on the CWISE board with Troy and Landon and Peter. And there are others as well, but the ones that are with us today, Avril is not with us today, and so forth. But I'm going to bring in, some of you guys have watched a video of someone recently and decided their fate. And that must have been stressful for you, Mike, that you had to let go of that video and answer a few questions and then just wait and wait. And then wait some more to find out the results. But Mike is with us, and he is the 8th CWNP dual expert. So he is CWNE and CWISE. Everyone else, by the way, that is a CWISE is either on the board or is the chairman of the board. And so he's the first person to get all the way to that level. So if you didn't know, congrats to Mike Bullock for accomplishing that. And Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here. And I just want to let you guys know that the London boys aren't the only ones having fun right now. I'm not going to. We're having fun on the East Coast too.
Glad to hear it, Mark. And congratulations as well. It was an excellent video. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I actually really enjoyed the video interview process. I don't really like writing 10, 20-page papers, and I don't think that you guys like reading 10 or 20-page papers. So it was actually nice to have it all done in 30 to 40 minutes.
Yes, and for those of you that do not know, the CWNEs that are with us and otherwise along the journey, for CWISE, what we're doing is when someone has passed the exams, they have to meet years of experience requirements. They have to have the certifications that are required. But then instead of writing papers, they do a video interview where I ask them specific scenario-based questions and other questions. They answer. They have no forewarning as to what they're going to be asked about. And then the board gets to watch a 15, 20, 25-minute video to evaluate that individual instead of reading papers and so forth. So it's almost like they do get the opportunity to interview the person in order to find out whether they should qualify or not. So it is a little bit of a different process we're using here in the beginning, kind of like CWNE went through different processes as it evolved over time. And so far the feedback has been good. So we'll see how that continues to go. But Mike, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say what I like about that process is that there's nowhere to hide. So when you can write an essay and you can do all your research and you can look on the web, I think it's easier to almost put other people's knowledge into your essays. When you're live on a video and you have no idea what's coming up, you've got to know it.
Yeah, just like real life.
It's real life. You've got to know it, and it's I think it's a really great way of working out if someone does have that expert level knowledge. As terrifying it was a pleasant experience. I actually quite enjoyed it. It reminded me of, I don't know if how many of the instructors are listening, but if you've ever been given some coursework to present, and 5 minutes before you're meant to present it, and you sort of hit next, and you don't know what slide's going to come up next, you've got to speak on it. It was a little bit like that. It was like, here's something on IoT, talk about it. And I quite like that as a process.
Yeah. Excellent. And by the way, just so you know, all the board members had to go through that same process. And that exact same process. They did video interviews themselves, not necessarily with the exact same questions. And our plans early on are that every single candidate will have different questions. And so there's no way that even out there in the community, someone wanted to share what the questions are that they could, because they're new each time. And so, but it gives the opportunity for that person to basically go through their job interview. Let me say this too. Mike is CWISE number 8, which means that he has a lower number than Peter had for CWNE.
Yep.
Yeah. But for CWISE, you have to divide by Landon.
I was never good at math.
So while for CWNE, you might divide by Devin, who's with us again. For Landon, for CWISE, you got to divide by Landon. And I don't know if you realize it, Landon, but that's kind of an honorable thing to be in that same kind of position there, right? So that's kind of cool. Yeah.
I've just got all the threes. That's the important thing.
That's true, because you're CWISE 3 too, right?
Yeah, number 3, yeah.
Yeah, so he's CWNE 33, CWISE 3, which is quite ironic.
Should start calling him Threater now instead of Peter.
Yeah, and I will tell you, when we did that process for the initials, those initial candidates, we scheduled those video interviews just in the earliest time that the people could do it. And so there was no trying to organize of anything. Landon just got in there first because he really wanted to get in there and get it over with. And Peter just happened to come in number 3. So he got the nice draw on that one. But that's the way it went. Well, we're going to keep all of you on the screen because we're going to keep adding some folks. So just to warn you, you're still on the screen if you didn't know. We have someone else with us who hasn't been in yet. His name is Nick. And I don't know if you're hearing me, Nick, but I'm warning you, you're about to go live in front of the world. So you might want to put that beer off to the side. And what's that smoke coming out? I don't know. Well, here he comes.
Hey.
He has been sitting there for over an hour just waiting to get to come on.
Yeah, on edge every time. You're like, oh, is he going to introduce me next? But no.
So, Nick, tell us your number and where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm number 371. I will be honest, I did have to double check earlier. I saw all the guys in the London office reading off their numbers, and I'm like, oh no. I don't remember mine. I knew it was 370 something. So I'm based in the UK, but I'm on the south coast. So kind of in the middle at the bottom.
And you couldn't make it up to where Peter was, so you just jumped in anyway.
Yeah, on this time I would have liked to, but I won't bore you with the details. But the logistics weren't going to work out on this occasion. But,
I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in and joining us. And it's funny that you mentioned number. Some people, the numbers are a really big thing to them. Some people, it's not. Some people they like numbers. You know what? You want to have your mind blown right now? I do not know what my number is. I have to look it up every single time because I always forget it. It's like 101, 102, 103. It's somewhere around there. I always have to look it up. I just don't think about it enough and haven't cited it enough to remember it.
Yeah, I guess the deal there is. Sorry, go on, Peter. Go on.
I was just going to say, I wonder if I was actually going to say it's a UK thing because I remember not knowing my number at the CWNE roundtable event and having to look it up before it came to me because Devon said, we're going to go around the table and everyone can say their CWNE number and introduce yourself. And I went, oh, I don't think do I have a number? I literally I didn't even recognize that I had a number. And I think that's why when the application process first came out, Devon used to literally email me probably once a month. You've not done your application yet. I was like, oh, I'll get round with it when I've got time. But I had no idea this number thing was going to get associated with CWNE at the time. No idea. And then I'm at this round table and says, introduce yourself and your number. And of course, I think I was sat next to Kimberly, who said, I'm Kimberly, I'm number 2, but I should be number 1. And then Keith said, I'm number 3. And I'm going, I don't even know what number I am. So I'm quickly opening my emails, trying to find it out as everyone goes around introducing themselves. And luckily, just before it got to me, I pulled up the right email and was like, oh yeah, number 33.
That is awesome. All right, we have another one in here who's not been able to come in yet. And we're going to bring him in, Mr. Neil Mack. We'll bring him in now. Welcome, sir. I'm not hearing you.
Oh, no. He's probably got a wireless problem.
He says, I don't know. Well, Neil, if you can get it working.
How's that?
There you are. There you are. Now I'm hearing you.
It's a new headset. I think it's this microphone arm has to be moved around to unmute. Yeah. So hi Tom, how are you? Great to see you. Great to see you, Devin. Everyone else. It's fantastic.
Neil, I don't think I've seen you since Orlando.
That's right, Tom. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's been a little while. The Gaylord in Orlando when Wi-Fi Trek was there before it became much better named as WTF.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to take up a lot of time because we're running over just a little bit here, but this is so much fun getting back together with everybody again. We actually intentionally named it that. Peter sent me a Twitter. He sent me a Twitter. He sent me a direct message on Twitter. That's age. I'm sorry, guys. He sent me a direct message on Twitter. We went back from Orlando. That's where we went back to headquarters. We had a discussion. about the how it went, a post-event analysis, and we're going to decide what we're going to do. And I said, the biggest thing is we need to change the name. Wi-Fi Trek, I'm not a big fan of the name. Not everybody's a Star Trek fan, and not everybody thinks about Trek from the concept of the journey, but they think of it as Star Trek, and they think, why are they trying to be these weird sci-fi people? And I said, I think we should change the name. And so Sean was pretty new that year. I believe it was his first year, if I remember right. And he said, well, what do you think we should call it? And I was ready. I had already loaded my gun. I said, we should call it the Wireless Technology Forum. And I said, for two reasons. One, we're already researching and analyzing, moving away from just being Wi-Fi, but also being focused on other wireless IoT solutions. So we should call it Wireless Technology Forum. Forum has a nice, good formal name to it and that kind of thing. And so Sean said, oh, I really like that. And I said, yeah. And I said, the great thing is the acronym will be WTF. And everybody just kind of went silent, and they said, you realize what that means, don't you? I said, I know exactly what it means, and I'm ready for the buzz. So let's go with WTF. And then we announced on Twitter the hashtag or something for it, WTF. And then Peter direct messaged me, Tom, does WTF mean the same thing in the United States that it does here? And I believe my response was, you mean Wireless Technology Forum? Question mark. And then I said, yes, sir, it means exactly the same thing. And it was intentional. And guess what? People were out there joking on social media and talking about it just like we thought they would. So that's a little bit of history there. Neil, thanks for joining with us today. How have things been with you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Tom. Very, very busy with work, so not as active on the Wi-Fi circuit as I was previously. Couple of job changes, so I'm not teaching anymore as my primary function. But yeah, just still very happy engaging with this rabble that you see in the room in London. We talk quite a lot on we have a Slack group going for UK Wi-Fi guys, so I sort of participate in that. But yeah, it's all excellent. Thank you, Tom.
Excellent. Well, so glad to have you with us today. And I'm actually going to disappear myself from the screen in just a moment, because I want to bring everybody on that I can, and I can only bring about 10 people onto the screen at a time. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and bring May back in. So May, here you come. And we're going to go ahead and bring Mr. Bartz back in. So Robert, here you come. And at this point in time, we have almost everybody in the room, but I can sadly only bring up 10 people at a time. And so I'm going to defer to another other than myself. And the final thing I'm going to do is say thank you all for joining us. Thank you for making CWNP wonderful, great, and amazing for me to be here and get to partner with and work with all of you. I really appreciate everything that you've done, and I know the CWNEs out there do as well. So I want to say thank you, and then I'm going to say my goodbye, and I'm going to bring Mark back in, and I'm going to leave you all in here to just chat and congratulate him and say congratulations to him, and that will be the way that we end it. So I'm walking out, and here comes Mr. Mark.
There I am. I made it. Myself. No, in all honesty, the thing about all this is, with it being such a big number, I got a lot of contacts from people that got other numbers. And so I think we need to give a shout out to Arif Nader, who got 499, and Justin Santamora got 501 as well, because they reached out to me as well. And so I think everybody that was pushing to get 500, I was just the lucky one. So, and 498 as well. So everybody was pushing to get it. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. I feel honored to be here. So thanks, everybody.
Did you get your jacket yet?
I haven't. There's a jacket.
Mine must still be in the mail. I don't know, man. I was told we get jackets. All I have is this hat, so buy it myself too. Congratulations, man. No, seriously.
Thanks, guys.
You know, we're all very well done.
We're all saying it, but no one wants to minimize the work that it's taking you to get here. It's not the end. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
a
definitely not the
really
end.
nice cap on that bedpost, huh?
Yep. Lots to do now. So, but cool, guys. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Congratulations again.
Just to say, Neil Mack, you look very dashing, sir.
Thank you very much. Do you know, it's interesting talking about CWNE numbers. So I was 113, and I've just got past the 10 years of being a CWNE. And I remember at the time, CWNEs, it was quite a slow process. So when you applied to be CWNE, you kind of knew more or less what number you were going to get just because of the slow movement of going through. And I kind of thought, okay, I'd like to get like 128, for example, because, you know, 2 to the power n, I thought was fantastic. 128 is going to be a great number, but it's kind of a bit long to wait to get that. Because for me, the numbers seem to be something fantastic. And I thought, well, what do I do? What do I get 108? Because I really like even numbers. And when I got 113, I was kind of, I don't really like that number very much because it's 113. It seems a bit odd. But then I got thinking about it, and I grew to really love the number because it's a prime number. It's a prime number. It's a prime number if you go backwards. It's a prime number if you mix the numbers up into any particular order. So as a prime number, it's got loads and loads going for it. And so for a while on Twitter, every time somebody got made a CWNE, if their CWNE number was a prime number, I'd just go, is a prime number. I'd just tweet that next to respond to the person that got the prime number CWNE. And it just made me sort of think and realize and sort of value that number. So it's quite interesting. Peter was kind of didn't even know what it was from day one. I've been hyper aware of the number, and I actually started to think in terms of people by their CWNE number rather than by their name for a while. So Alan was, I think, what, Alan, you're 10, was you 108? I think you were, and so yeah, I can't remember exactly who it was, but for a while, you know, I think it might be Ronald Van Cluen actually 108. But for a while, I'd just sort of associate with the number, so it's really strange. So that's why 500 is a fantastic number. It kind of carries a lot of significance. 499 is a prime number. The one before 501 sadly isn't, but I don't think it'll be that long before we get the next prime number. So love your number, guys.
You know something else?
Devin, you're on mute.
Devin's on mute, I think.
Oh, I think Westcott has the coolest number of all, a 007, because that gives him a license to kill people who build bad Wi-Fi networks.
So what I'm hearing is Wi-Fi is a hit list.
I'll tell you something that's interesting. Tom was talking about community and how the CWNP community has brought people together. Well, someone in this room lives in the same country as me, Ian, and but we never met. And do you know where we met? Where I first met Ian? In Atlanta.
And that was your fault, Devin.
And it was Devin's fault because he had come out to say that a CWAP trained a trainer class, even though he wasn't a trainer. And he sat the class I was teaching, and that's when we first met and started off his CWNE journey.
Was that in 04?
Yeah. Really?
Wait a minute. What class was that?
In 2004.
CWAP beta class.
Yeah, beta
class. CWAP. Okay. That was the one that all of the Packets Never Lie little videos came from, right?
I don't know, but we had half of the UK and Australia in the same class. And so Americans, Australians, and the UK in the same class, and nobody could understand anything anybody else was saying.
I think that it's still somewhere on Twitter.
I heard the slides were great.
Well, and on that note, I don't appreciate that Scott Williams has just brought up the topic of hair, looking at both Devin and myself. So yeah, I told you were middle-aged now, Landon. And so I just want to say thank you. This has been a blast, and thank you for coming together. And so we're going to say goodbye, but man, it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye till next time, because this is a family, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad you're all part of it. And once again, we say to Mark, welcome to the CWNE family. And thank you, everyone, for participating today. We're going to go ahead and say goodbye. Take care, everyone.
Hey, Tom, are we going to
Goodbye.
do this again? 600?